In this video, we are going to review factoring, and it's designed for a college algebra or algebra 2 class. Recall, a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So the directions say to factor completely. Now, let's take a look at example 1. In example 1, we have x squared minus 25. But we can write that as x squared minus 5 squared. Because remember, 5 squared is equal to 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. And so following the pattern up here, we can write this as x plus 5 times x minus 5. Let's take a look at example 2. Suppose we had x squared minus 36. Now we could write this as x squared minus 6 squared. Following again the pattern, we write this as x plus 6 times x minus 6. Let's take a look at example 3. Suppose we had x squared minus 4y squared. So this can be written as x squared minus. Now the question is, what raised to the second gives me 4y squared? Now, remember, I happen to know that 2 squared is equal to 4. And so what we would put inside the parentheses is 2y. 2y raised to the second power is 4y squared. And if I go to factor, following that pattern, I get x plus 2y times x minus 2y, like so. Example 4. Suppose I had 9x squared minus y squared. But this can be written as 3x raised to the second minus y squared. Remember, 3 squared equals 9. And so as I factor, and again, remember, to factor means to write as a product. I'm going to write this as 3x plus y times 3x minus y. Example 5. Suppose I had x squared y squared minus 81. Well, I can write this as, in parentheses, I'm going to put xy raised to the second power. And again, that's equal to x squared y squared. And then 9 squared is equal to 81. And then if I go to factor, I get xy plus 9 times xy minus 9. Example 6. So for example 6, I have 16x squared y squared minus 1. Now the question is, what squared produces 16x squared y squared? Now I happen to know that 4 squared is 16. And then if I square x, I get x squared. And if I square y, I get y squared. So I'm going to get 4xy inside parentheses. I'm going to go minus 1 squared. So you can see this 4xy taking the place of a in that original formula over here, right? So notice, again, a squared minus b squared is a plus b times a minus b. And so if I go to factor, I get 4xy plus 1 times 4xy minus 1. Let's take a look at example 7. Suppose I had x squared minus y minus 3 squared. So my x is a, my y minus 3 is b. So when I do this, okay, I'm going to take a and b and add them. So in other words, I'm going to get x plus y minus 3. And if you notice, I put y minus 3 in parentheses on purpose. And then that's the first factor. The second factor is a minus b. And so I get x minus y minus 3. And as an instructor, I would want you to be able to simplify that. So in other words, I want to write this as x plus y minus 3 times. If I distribute this negative inside, I'm going to get x minus y plus 3. Okay. And that's how we do example 7. Let's take a look at example 8. Now, if I give you x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus y squared, this one is a very, very interesting problem, okay? Because I want you to look at the first 3 terms. The first 3 terms represent a perfect square. Now, if it's too much to look at it over here, I would suggest you create something called side work, right? So what I need to do is be able to factor the first 3 terms. So I'm going to take x squared plus 2x plus 1, right? And I'm going to factor. And remember, to factor means to write as a product. Now, notice that x squared is equal to x times x. There's no choice. So that's what goes in the first term of each factor. And then 1 is equal to 1 times 1. And again, there's no choice. And so this ends up being x plus 1 times x plus 1, right? And if you notice, 1 times x plus x times 1 gives me 2x. And so it factors really nicely. Now, I could write this as x plus 1 raised to the second. And so on the next line, I get x plus 1 raised to the second minus y squared. Now, x plus 1 is basically a, and y is basically my b. So my first factor is a plus b, which is x plus 1 plus y. My second factor is a minus b, which is x plus 1 minus y. And if it helps, you can put this x plus 1 in parentheses to emphasize it's a plus b times a minus b. So that's a really, really good problem. Let's take a look at example 9. We can do 2 more for this video. Now, in example 9, we have x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus y squared. Now, just like before, if you really look at those first three terms, that's a perfect square, okay? So in other words, I'm going to look at x squared minus 6x plus 9, and I'm going to factor it. When I factor it, right, remember that x squared is x times x. So that's the first term of each factor. 9 is 3 times 3. But to get that middle term of negative 6x, both the 3's have to be negative, right? Negative 3x minus 3x is negative 6x. And so this is how we factor x squared minus 6x plus 9. But we could write that as x minus 3 raised to the second. So this is x minus 3 raised to the second minus y squared. So in other words, I took the first three terms and just substituted in x minus 3 to the second. And now I'm ready to factor. When I factor, I get x minus 3 plus y times x minus 3 minus y. And again, you can put the x minus 3 in parentheses for emphasis, right? I'm taking a plus b times a minus b. And that's how we do that problem. Let's do one more of a similar theme for this video. Now, what if I gave you the following? So, what if I gave you 9x squared minus 6x plus 1 minus 9y squared? Okay. Now, if I look at the first three terms of this four-term polynomial, okay, that's a perfect square. I claim that I can write this as 3x minus 1 raised to the second. Then I'm going to go minus, and 9y squared is equal to 3y raised to the second. And now, this is a difference of squares. It just took a little bit of work to get to that, right? Now, this is a, right? My 3x minus 1, and 3y is b. If I take a plus b and add them, I get 3x minus 1 plus 3y. Okay? And then if I take a minus b and subtract them, I get 3x minus 1 minus 3y. And that's how you factor this four-term polynomial. And this is a good stopping point for this video. And this is a review of how to factor polynomials completely. So I focused on a special formula. A squared minus b squared is a plus b times a minus b. And we did 10 examples. Thank you.